I corrected the presentation that showed our system was nearly flawless and said softly, "This neural network achieves 98% accuracy with minimal computational overhead." My employer, Vincent Lawson, the CEO of Kestrel Wind Media, gave me a look that may have stopped the meeting room in its tracks. Sitting across from us, the three Bright Ridge Ventures investors' faces changed from ones of courteous attention to ones of sincere wonder as they took in what I had to say. I'm Alice Thompson, and I'm 52 years old. I've been the senior technical director at Portland, Oregon's Kestrel Wind Media for the last 8 years. Vincent was now showing prospective investors the unique machine learning technology that I had developed over the course of 18 months. It seemed like someone was destroying a masterpiece as I watched him oversimplify my work. The technology wasn't the gaudy jargon Vincent liked. It was complex, subtle, and needed careful explanation. "What Alice means," Vincent said, forcing a grin, "is that our system is game-changing, industry-leading, and revolutionary." When he clicked on the following slide, a graph that I had never seen before appeared. When I realized that the statistics were wildly exaggerated and incorrect, I felt my gut tighten. The principal investor, Dr. Patricia Kim, leaned forward. "Alice, could you provide more details on the computational overhead you mentioned? Our technical staff will require details." Sensing the tension, her piercing gaze shifted between Vincent and me. There was a little tightening of Vincent's jaw. "Patricia, I can take care of the technical inquiries. Alice is there to help if necessary." However, Dr. Kim kept staring at me expectantly, and I was torn between upholding my professional ethics and the hierarchy of the company. With processing rates averaging 4 milliseconds each query on ordinary hardware, I carefully emphasized that the system requires approximately 2 gigabytes of memory per 1,000 data points. Depending on the complexity of the data, these requirements enable scalable implementation with accuracy rates ranging from 96 to 98%. The other two investors, Jennifer Walsh from Operations and Robert Chen from Finance, looked at each other and started taking notes. Dr. Kim gave a contemplative nod. "Vincent, that's a lot more realistic than the estimates on your presentations. We value precise technical information." Although Vincent's smile remained constant, I could tell that his neck muscles were strained. "Of course, Alice is very detail-oriented." His delivery of the phrase gave the impression that being detail-oriented was a weakness rather than a virtue. I responded to 3 additional technical questions that Vincent shifted to me throughout the discussion, each time with truthful, precise facts that ran counter to his simplistic presentation. I realized I was in trouble by the time we shook hands and the investors departed. I had a bad feeling in my chest that tomorrow I will pay a heavy price for being honest today. It was gray and raining the following morning, as is customary in November in Portland. With my customary cup of coffee and a clear feeling of purpose, I settled into my office at Kestrel Wind Media. 8 years ago, after going through a divorce and seeking a fresh start in my career, I started working for the firm as a software developer. By simplifying their current architecture and suggesting creative enhancements, I immediately demonstrated my worth to the tiny media technology company that specialized in content management systems. Vincent was different back then. He was more cooperative and open to hearing technical knowledge. In less than 3 years, he had elevated me to senior technical director in recognition of my contributions to the company's rising stature. I had cultivated connections with our current clientele, had a deep understanding of their requirements, and devoted several late hours to refining the machine learning system that was now catching the interest of investors. My work was respected by my coworkers. The marketing team's Jennifer Murphy frequently asked me for my opinion on the technical details of client presentations. I often conferred with our operations manager, David Reeves, on resource allocation and implementation schedules. Even the less experienced developers approached me with inquiries, since they knew I would take the time to fully clarify difficult ideas. But in the last 2 years, Vincent had changed. His ego had grown as a result of his success, and he started claiming credit for inventions he hardly comprehended. I had taken the lead on the machine learning project from inception to completion. However, it was Vincent's strategic vision that he presented to the board. Until recently, I had never felt the need to justify my efforts, even though I had emails, code repositories, and design papers attesting to my authorship. The investor gathering yesterday had been planned for months. With a reputation for investing in innovative digital firms, Bright Ridge Ventures was interested in our machine learning system and could spend up to $15 million. I had created thorough technical documentation, reasonable schedules, and truthful evaluations of my strengths and weaknesses. A week before, Vincent had requested my documents, saying he wanted to look over everything in detail. I now realized why, despite his obvious lack of technical knowledge, he had exuded such confidence during the presentation. He had only committed some of my paperwork to memory, omitting the important background information and restrictions I had meticulously described. If the investors hadn't raised major concerns, the exaggerated performance promises and unrealistic timescales he provided may have severely tarnished our reputation. I was concerned about Vincent's strategy's long-term effects. Not all investment firms were the same as Bright Ridge Ventures. They have their own technical due diligence team and focused on technology firms. Prior to becoming an investor, Dr. Patricia Kim created 2 successful firms and has advanced degrees in computer technology. Marketing exaggeration would not deceive her for long. I hope your big presentation went well yesterday, Mom. My daughter Claire, who lives in Seattle with her 2 kids, texted me as my phone chimed. Give me a call this weekend. Her note served as a reminder that I had individuals who relied on my success and stability in addition to my career. I needed to be ready for whatever Vincent had in store about yesterday's meeting in order to save not just my profession, but also the financial stability of my family. At precisely 10 in the morning, Vincent summoned me to his office. As I sat across from his mahogany desk, he maintained a deliberately bland demeanor. Beyond his corner windows, I could see the Portland skyline, while the West Hills were still covered in morning fog. His workplace was always intimidating, with costly furnishings, medals on display, and an overall corporate power vibe that made guests feel insignificant. Alice, we need to discuss what happened yesterday, Vincent began, his voice carrying the measured tone he used when delivering bad news. I've been thinking about your performance during the investor presentation, and I have some concerns. I kept my expression calm, though my heart rate quickened. I thought the meeting went well. The investors seemed satisfied with the technical information they received. That's exactly the problem, Vincent said, leaning back in his leather chair. You undermined my presentation by contradicting the projections I had prepared. When I say our system is revolutionary and game-changing, the last thing I need is someone nitpicking about computational overhead and accuracy percentages. Vincent, those weren't nitpicks, I replied. Those were fundamental technical specifications that any serious investor would want to verify. Dr. Kim specifically asked for detailed information. His eyes hardened. Dr. Kim asked me, and I chose to delegate the question to you, but your response made it sound like I didn't understand my own company's technology. He paused dramatically. It made me look incompetent in front of investors who were considering a $15 million commitment. I felt a chill run down my spine. I was trying to provide accurate information. If the investors make decisions based on unrealistic projections, we'll never be able to deliver on their expectations. That's not your call to make, Vincent snapped, his carefully maintained composure cracking slightly. I decide what information investors receive and how it's presented. Your job is to support my decisions, not second-guess them in front of potential funders. He opened a folder on his desk and slid a document across to me. Effective immediately, you're being reassigned to a senior developer position. Your salary will be adjusted accordingly, a reduction of $20,000 per year. You'll report to David Reeves instead of directly to me. The words hit me like a physical blow. After 8 years of building my reputation and expertise at this company, Vincent was demoting me for telling the truth. I stared at the paperwork, seeing my title change from Senior Technology Director to Senior Developer, watching my authority and influence disappear with the stroke of his pen. This is punishment for providing accurate technical information, I said quietly, struggling to keep my voice steady. This is a lesson in knowing your place, Vincent replied coldly. You're a talented developer, Alice, but you clearly don't understand the bigger picture of running a technology company. Perhaps this will help you focus on what you do best, writing code and following instructions." I looked up at him, seeing the satisfaction in his eyes, and nodded slowly. "You're absolutely right, sir. I clearly misunderstood my role here." My voice was respectful, almost submissive, and I watched Vincent relax slightly as he interpreted my response as acceptance. "Good. I'm glad we understand each other. Welcome to your new position." I returned to my office, soon to be my former office, with the demotion paperwork clutched in my trembling hands. The familiar space that had been my professional sanctuary for 8 years suddenly felt foreign and temporary. My computer monitors displayed the machine learning code I had written, thousands of lines of elegant algorithms that represented months of careful development. Vincent wanted me to know my place. I was beginning to understand exactly where that place should be. I spent the morning methodically backing up my files onto external drives, ostensibly to prepare for my move to a smaller office in the development wing. But I was also preserving evidence of my work, every email, every design document, every piece of code that proved my authorship of the technology Vincent was claiming as his strategic vision. If he thought I would quietly disappear into the background, he had seriously underestimated me. Jennifer Murphy knocked on my door around noon, her face reflecting the gossip that had already spread through the office. "Alice, I heard about the reassignment. I can't believe Vincent would do this to you, especially after how hard you've worked on the machine learning project." "These things happen," I replied carefully, aware that anything I said would likely make its way back to Vincent. "I'm looking forward to focusing more on development work," but Jennifer wasn't buying my diplomatic response. "Everyone knows that technology is your baby. Half the company comes to you with technical questions instead of going to Vincent. This is completely unfair." After she left, I sat alone with my thoughts and growing anger. Vincent had not just demoted me, he had tried to humiliate me in front of colleagues who respected my expertise. The $20,000 salary reduction was significant, but the loss of credibility and authority felt even more devastating. I was 52 years old, too experienced to be treated like a junior employee who had spoken out of turn. My phone rang at 1:30 p.m., interrupting my brooding. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize with a Portland area code. I almost ignored it, assuming it was a sales call, but something made me answer. "Hello. Is this Alice Thompson?" The voice was crisp and professional, with a slight accent I couldn't immediately place. "Yes, this is Alice. Who's calling, please?" "This is Dr. Patricia Kim from Bright Ridge Ventures. We met yesterday during your company's presentation. I hope you don't mind me calling directly. I obtained your number from your company's website directory." My heart started racing. "Of course, Dr. Kim. How can I help you?" "I wanted to follow up on some of the technical details you provided yesterday. Your explanations were extremely helpful, and I have a few additional questions that I hope you might be able to address." She paused slightly. "I also wanted to discuss something else with you if you have a few minutes for a confidential conversation." The word confidential sent a thrill through me. "I have time to talk." "Alice, I want to be direct with you. Yesterday's presentation revealed some concerning discrepancies between your technical expertise and Vincent's understanding of the system you've developed. Our due diligence process includes verification of key personnel and their roles in developing the technologies we're considering funding." I chose my words carefully. "What kind of verification are you looking for?" "We need to understand who actually developed this machine learning system. The technical specifications Vincent presented didn't align with the realistic assessments you provided. And, frankly, his responses to our follow-up questions suggested a fundamental lack of understanding of his own company's primary innovation." My mouth went dry. "I see. Alice, our research indicates that you hold several patents related to machine learning applications in media technology. The algorithms you described yesterday match the methodologies outlined in your published research from 3 years ago. Is it fair to say that you were the primary developer of the system Kestrel Wind Media is offering?" The moment of truth had arrived. Vincent had just demoted me for telling investors the facts about my own technology. Now those same investors were asking me directly about my role in developing it. "Yes," I said quietly. "I designed and implemented the entire system. The machine learning architecture, the optimization algorithms, the user interface, all of it was my work. That's what we suspected. Alice, we need to have a longer conversation about this situation. Would you be available to meet with me privately this afternoon? I met Dr. Patricia Kim at a quiet coffee shop in the Pearl District, far enough from Kestrel Wind Media's offices to avoid running into colleagues. She was waiting at a corner table when I arrived, her silver hair perfectly styled and her expression both professional and sympathetic. At 60-something, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had built and sold 2 successful companies before becoming an investor. Alice, thank you for meeting me on such short notice, she said as I sat down with my latte. I wanted to discuss yesterday's presentation away from your office environment. I appreciate you reaching out directly, though I should mention that Vincent reassigned me to a different position this morning. Apparently, I overstepped my bounds during yesterday's meeting. Dr. Kim's eyebrows rose slightly. He demoted you for providing accurate technical information to potential investors? The official reason was failure to support management decisions and undermining the presentation, I replied, trying to keep bitterness out of my voice. Vincent felt that I made him look incompetent by correcting his projections. Alice, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Vincent did look incompetent yesterday, but not because of anything you said. He looked incompetent because he was trying to present technology he clearly doesn't understand while claiming it as his own innovation. She sipped her espresso and leaned forward. We've been researching this investment for 3 weeks. Your name appears on patents, academic papers, and conference presentations related to this technology. Vincent's name appears on none of them. The validation felt overwhelming. After months of watching Vincent take credit for my work, having a respected investor acknowledge my contributions was both gratifying and vindicating. Our technical due diligence team ran a preliminary analysis of the algorithms you described yesterday, the computational overhead calculations, the accuracy ranges, the scalability limitations. Everything you said aligns perfectly with our independent assessment. Vincent's projections, on the other hand, were wildly optimistic and technically impossible. What does this mean for the investment? I asked. It means we're questioning whether current leadership can effectively scale this innovation. Bright Ridge Ventures invests in technology companies, not marketing companies. We need to be confident that the people running the business actually understand what they're selling. Dr. Kim pulled out a tablet and showed me a detailed technical report. We had our team analyze the patent filings and published research associated with this technology. Alice, you're not just the developer of this system. You're the inventor. This is your intellectual property being presented as Vincent's strategic vision. The implications hit me like a thunderbolt. Vincent wasn't just taking credit for my recent work. He was trying to build an entire company valuation around technology one had created while treating me as a replaceable employee. What would you need from me to complete your evaluation? I asked carefully. We need detailed technical documentation, realistic development timelines, and honest assessments of both current capabilities and future potential. We also need to understand the organizational structure that would best support continued innovation in this area. I met her gaze directly. You mean you need to know whether Vincent is essential to the company's success? That's exactly what I mean. Our investment committee meets next Friday to make a final decision. We're prepared to offer $15 million for a 30% stake in Kestrel Wind Media, but only if we're confident in the technical leadership. She paused meaningfully. Right now, we're not confident in Vincent's ability to lead technical development. The coffee shop suddenly felt charged with possibility. Dr. Kim was offering me the chance to reclaim credit for my work and potentially reshape the entire company structure. But I also knew that crossing Vincent publicly would have serious consequences for my career. What exactly are you proposing? I asked. That depends on what you're willing to do to protect your innovation and ensure this company's success. Over the next 2 hours, Dr. Kim and I developed a plan that was both elegant and risky. She needed comprehensive technical documentation that proved my authorship of the machine learning system, along with realistic projections for future development. I needed protection from Vincent's retaliation and recognition for my contributions. The solution was to make the investment contingent on my involvement in a protected leadership role. Alice, we're not trying to orchestrate a coup, Dr. Kim explained as we reviewed her proposal. We're trying to ensure that our investment is protected by having the actual innovator in a position to guide the technology's development. She outlined the terms that Bright Ridge Ventures would present to Vincent. The $15 million investment would be contingent on several conditions, including the establishment of a Chief Technology Officer position, reporting directly to the Board of Directors rather than to the Chief Executive Officer. The position would come with equity compensation and contractual protections against arbitrary dismissal. Vincent will know this came from our conversation, I pointed out. He'll suspect, but he won't be able to prove anything, Dr. Kim replied. We'll present this as a standard requirement for technology investments, which it actually is. Most of our portfolio companies have protected technical leadership structures. I spent Wednesday and Thursday compiling the documentation Dr. Kim needed. 8 years of emails, code repositories, patent applications, and design documents told a clear story of technological innovation driven by my vision and expertise. The evidence was overwhelming and meticulously organized, creating an undeniable record of my contributions. Vincent, meanwhile, was growing increasingly nervous about the investment timeline. He stopped by my new, smaller office several times, fishing for information about any investor contact. Alice, have you heard anything from the Bright Ridge people? They've been asking for additional technical documentation. I haven't heard from them, I replied truthfully. Our communication had been entirely through personal email and phone calls, not company channels. Friday afternoon brought the moment of reckoning. Vincent called an emergency meeting with the senior staff to discuss Bright Ridge Ventures' final investment terms. I sat in the conference room with David Reeves, Jennifer Murphy, and 3 other department heads, watching Vincent's confident expression gradually transform into confusion and then barely concealed panic. They're demanding organizational changes as a condition of investment, Vincent announced, his voice tight with frustration. They want to create a Chief Technology Officer position with broad authority over technical development and direct board oversight. David Reeves, who had been my supervisor since the demotion, looked puzzled. But you handle technical strategy now, Vincent. Why would they want to split that responsibility? They claim it's standard practice for technology investments, Vincent replied, clearly struggling to understand the implications. They're also requiring that the position be filled by someone with demonstrable expertise in machine learning and media technology applications. The room fell silent as everyone realized there was only one person at Kestrel Wind Media who met those qualifications. Vincent's eyes found mine across the conference table, and I saw recognition dawn in his expression. He understood now that his attempt to sideline me had backfired spectacularly. Alice, he said slowly, I believe they're expecting you to fill this role. I hadn't heard anything official, I replied calmly. But I would certainly be interested in contributing to the company's technical strategy at that level. Vincent's jaw worked silently as he processed the reversal of fortune. 3 days ago, he had demoted me for undermining his authority. Now he needed my expertise to secure the investment that would determine the company's future. The irony was not lost on anyone in the room, and I could see several colleagues struggling to hide their satisfaction at seeing Vincent's comeuppance. We'll need to discuss this privately, Vincent said, his voice strained with the effort of maintaining composure. Of course, I agreed. I'm available whenever you're ready to talk. Monday morning brought Vincent's complete surrender, disguised as a strategic decision. He called me into his office at 9 a.m. The same mahogany desk where he had demoted me just 5 days earlier now served as the stage for his humiliation. His expensive suit couldn't hide the tension in his shoulders or the dark circles under his eyes that suggested a weekend spent contemplating his limited options. Alice, I've been reconsidering the organizational structure in light of the Bright Ridge investment opportunity, he began, his voice carefully controlled. I think creating a Chief Technology Officer position could benefit the company's growth trajectory. I sat across from him with the same calm demeanor I had maintained during my demotion, letting him struggle through his prepared speech while internally savoring every word. The board has approved the position, and I'd like to offer it to you. The role would include equity compensation, a significant salary increase, and direct involvement in strategic planning. He slid a contract across the desk, and I noted that my hands didn't tremble this time as I picked it up. The terms were everything Dr. Kim had negotiated and more: Chief Technology Officer with board oversight, a $40,000 salary increase from my original position, stock options that would make me wealthy if the company succeeded, and ironclad protections against arbitrary dismissal. Vincent had been forced to not just restore my authority, but expand it beyond what I had ever possessed. "This is quite generous," I said, scanning the contractual language that made me effectively untouchable. "What changed your mind about my role in the company?" Vincent's smile looked physically painful. "I realized that I may have underestimated your contributions to our technical development. The investors have made it clear that your expertise is crucial to their confidence in our future success." "I understand." "As well as my prior reassignment," he said, an unfortunate misunderstanding, as if the words were stuck in his mouth. "I hope we can move forward with a better appreciation for each other's strengths." The whole senior staff was present to witness my promotion and restoration when the contract was signed that afternoon in the main conference room. Colleagues who had observed my relegation with dismay gave me sincere applause when Vincent announced that I had been promoted to Chief Technology Officer. David Reeves nodded his approval at what he properly saw as justice being done, while Jennifer Murphy smiled at me from the other side of the table. In order to demonstrate Bright Ridge Ventures' satisfaction with the organizational adjustments, Dr. Kim participated via video conference. Although I noticed a little smile on her face, she said seriously, "We're confident that Alice's leadership of technical development will position Kestrel Wind Media for sustained innovation and growth." I felt the sweet satisfaction of a perfectly accomplished strategy as I signed the contract that made me Vincent's equal rather than a servant. I suddenly had direct authority over the machine learning technology that had been my life's work for the previous 18 months, shielded by investor support and board scrutiny. Vincent was no longer allowed to disregard knowledge he couldn't match or claim credit for inventions he didn't comprehend. However, the true triumph transcended both title and income. Merit had won out over deception, as seen by the admiration in my coworkers' eyes, the assurance in Dr. Kim's words, and the barely disguised loss in Vincent's stance. I was more than just a skilled coder who followed directions. The most important asset of the firm was acknowledged to have been designed by myself. I politely and professionally took Vincent's handshake when he offered it as a congrats. I remarked in a kind tone, "I look forward to working together in this new capacity," but my eyes were sending a completely different message. I learned to know my position from him, and he was now seeing that my place was at the top of the technical hierarchy, which he had attempted to keep me out of. The student was now the instructor, and the lesson was finished. Vincent's attempt to discredit me had shown his basic shortcomings as a technical leader and almost cost the business its biggest possible investment. As board members and investors saw the discrepancy between his boasts and his talents, his power gradually diminished in the months that followed. Within 6 months, he received a discreet request to resign as CEO, and a seasoned IT executive who recognized the need of collaborative leadership took his place. He left with a little severance payout and the knowledge that his handling of the exact invention that could have guaranteed his legacy had irrevocably tarnished his position in Portland's close-knit technical community. As our machine learning technology acquired momentum in the industry, Bright Ridge Ventures eventually boosted their investment to $25 million, demonstrating that Dr. Kim's faith in my leadership was well-founded. We increased the size of the development team, won 3 important client contracts, and started looking into uses outside of media technology that may make the business a big force in the artificial intelligence space under my leadership. I frequently thought about the peculiar path that had taken me from demotion to success in less than a week, while I adapted to my corner office, which was bigger than Vincent's had been. Sometimes letting incompetent individuals show their true selves while putting them in a position to take advantage of the chances their mistakes provide is more effective than hatching complex plans for retaliation.